Hey, sugar, sugar. Welcome back to the episode. Welcome back to How I Became Your Mother. How I Became Your Mother. Yes, I ate. All right. This episode, first of all, what's going on? It is January 14th. I'm recording episode number 2. I feel I wasn't even going to do it. I have a self tape, but I feel so charged. I already uh, outlined this episode and I said, you know what? Follow your instinct. Do another recording. You're feeling the vibe. So keep going. So that's what I'm doing. I what's happening right now? What's happening right now is I am actually very, very my 3D is not really matching with my 4D. It's starting to match. But at this point there's like a lag. Like for example, I need to find a way to pay for your grandmother's home health aid, and we have no money right now. And I know that I'm waiting on a really big opportunity that's happening because I know it, but it hasn't come. So that's causing a little bit of stress, a little bit of stress. But as all the stories say, that right before that break happens, you feel like the world is ending. And I remember, I'm gonna tell you about this later. I remember the day that I finally got my Lion King gig. I was depleted. It was raining. I was like, this is not happening. They don't want me. This is a mess. I didn't eat. And that call came in and it changed my life. And that's how most things happen. So I know a change is coming, but right now it was giving, what are we going to do? Credit cards are maxed out. I've already taken out a loan for medical help. I have asked on a GoFundMe. Um, but you know what? I have faith that by the time this come out, even by the time this thing drop, which actually this is cool. My plan is to drop this on at least the teasers on Valentine's Day. Um, so that's a month out. So I'm thinking that by the time y'all even hear this, there's gonna be a glow up. But let me explain. Right now, I was on the floor. I was crying. I was crying down. Okay, underneath. By the way, that's a phrase that I use with my friends and I, and it is a way to express when your emotions take you to a place of debilitating nature. Maybe you're underneath the blanket. Maybe you underneath the couch. I was underneath the toilet, kind of just laying down, crying because I feel like I've done so much. You know, I've honored my mom. I've honored my energy, myself. I've honored my career. I've honored my friends, my body, my mind. I've honored God. So I'm like, what is tease? What is tease? But I know that things have to come, have to unfold in a different way. Like I get it. I already know. So right now it's giving patience. Patience, little brother. Patience, patience. Take each other by the hand. Yeah, yeah. We will walk. Okay. In peace. Not this in my head. Only way. All right, Kalilah, chill. So that's what it has to give. It has to give patience. It has to give that. And I'm even, you feel me? I'm doing that. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, meaning I'm putting my faith where my mouth is because I'm recording this thing right now, letting you know I'm underneath. Under the jail. You hear me? Under. People say, Kalilah, how was you able to go back and forth every month caring for your mother? Loans, credit cards. Them things wasn't going to stand in the way of me standing in for my mama now. A little debt ain't going to do that, but I do know the guy's going to have my back. Anyway, let's bring it back. So that's what's going on. Okay, that's what's going on. Today we talking about being black. Being black. Okay. this is what I want to talk about. And I first want to say that I have a lot of fear around this. I have fear. I have fear around this because I think that I got different ways of looking at it, and it may conflict with the public, and I'm nervous because I like my peers. And I like my peers to feel like I know what's going on too, and they like me, and I don't want them to be like, oh my, oh, what's going on? But I have to realize that my thoughts matter, and also I could raise my kid how I want to raise my kid. So if this is how I want to raise you, they gonna have to shut up and sit down. Okay? All right. You see, that's the defensive piece. Your mama had. I'm also from the Bronx. That's coming soon. That there's a little piece of a defensiveness that's around the sensitivity because I'm sensitive. Okay, my heart, it hurts when I feel unwanted. So this is terrifying for me. But I'm gonna move forward. I'm move forward. So this is I wanted to talk about being Black because of my polar beliefs on it. Like, a part of me feels like being Black is super duper 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 important to my experience as a human. And then the other part realizes that it is a social human thing that may not deserve the type of energy that I was raised to attach to it. So that's what I'm working through. And I want to start with what I was raised to believe, right? What my experience is being Black. First of all, when I think about being Black, on my mother's side and my father's side, I first think about there's a level of pride and a level of reverence, a level of, dare I say, superiority that I was raised with. And I think a lot of the superiority that I was raised with, like thinking those thoughts around, like, we do this, for example, there was a lot of thoughts around other people not being as clean as Black people. You can't trust what other people be doing in their house because they don't know how to clean. They don't really be doing, and there was certain things that I was taught, and then things that I would see. Like, I noticed how like certain children, like the white, why I don't know why I'm trying to be so PC because I don't want to get canceled. That's what it is. This is all my personal opinion, my personal experience. But I would notice, like in daycare and in areas where we would have like a couch or something, I would see how my white friends, they would sleep on the couch with their outside sneakers on. Like, people laying down with outside sneakers on. And I would notice how at certain potlucks and certain things, when I was taught to use a saucer, use the main utensil to put your stuff on the saucer and then take your thing out, I would see my white counterparts and white friends digging out of the communal thing with their hands. So there was I would also see the evidence of this, but there was a general kind of like ideas. And that was just an example of the cleanliness. That's not something that you need to attach because there's plenty of clean white people and there's plenty of a dirty, nasty Black people. I'm just trying to give you some context. So the stuff that I was taught the things, and then I would see evidence of it. There was also a pride in our culture and in our food, that I was taught. A pride. Oh my God. I keep wanting to say proud and pride. A pride in the name. Like, for example, your grandfather greets me every time I pick up the phone. He says, "Hey, Kalilah Black." The fact that my last name is Black, I think is one of the best things about my identity. Like that is fire. That is fire. Come on, I'm black and my last name is Black. Kalilah Black. That's not that's a fire name. That's a fire name. So being black and then my last name being black also led to a pride, Kalilah, a pride. Um, I remember conversations around dating and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, my experience with being black was around a lot of pride, around a lot of this is how we do things, um, around us being lively and gathering, and just the culture of being black felt very much, y'all might not be worried about us, but we rock and we're fire, and we know that we're fire. On the other hand, I was taught that there was um an innate disadvantage, that because of racism, my experience will be affected as a black woman. Well, I don't want to even get into the woman part, but as a black person, I will experience things less than. Like I was taught that. I was taught that my grandmother, while she was used to braid my hair and wash my hair and hot comb my hair, she would talk to me about the things that she experienced in the South, about her brother being dragged and killed from on a train, around just the really strong, true acts of violence that that my grandmother's family would experience in Alabama solely because of racism. Now, I was raised in New York, and I was raised in a kind of diverse area. And the first time I experienced a separation was actually from one of my best friends. So I used to be from grade around first grade to, I think we kind of had a breakup friendship around fourth grade. I was best friends with this white girl. She was a twin. Um, and we were like, I lived. I remember, because you'll know by now, because you know how hard I love and how strong I love and how much I ride for my friends. That was my bestie. So much so, she invited me to our house. We had a sleepover. She had a sleepover. We watched Grease. She introduced me to Grease, which is one of my favorite movies to this day. I remember going to her house and experiencing a completely different thing than I experienced in the Bronx. They had her and her sibling had their own recreational area with their blow up beanbag chairs, or what they had, this beautiful setup, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And then fast forward, something happened. I think what happened was back in the day, you used to call people. We didn't have cell phones. So this is before I had a cell phone. We all had each other's house phones, and there was something called three-way. And I don't know if she wanted to date one of my little boyfriends at that time. I don't know what happened, but she got on three-way with the guy, called me, asked me some questions, some incriminating questions, and then hung up. Like, she basically set me up. And then when I confronted her the next day, she told me that she didn't really want to be friends anymore. And I was trying to figure out why. I'm like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And she was talking to me about how when me and my other friends who were black would talk about hairstyles and talk about like hip hop and talk about those things, she felt left out. And it felt odd to me because I didn't remember those things. And I guess I was trying to combine her with my other friends or whatever. Then she wound up going and kind of staying around the white people, and that was it. Like we stopped being friends. But that was my first experience. That was like around fourth grade, I believe, where I was like, oh, like this blackness, me talking about braids and hair and Jordans is something different. And she doesn't want to be a part of that. And now we're no longer friends. Like that was the first time I felt like being black had a personal effect on my life. Um, I've also had racial experiences. I had this one experience in Vegas, which I let that lady really hurt my feelings. And basically, we were in a buffet. Vegas has these buffets, these beautiful, lovely buffets. We were sitting in a buffet. I'm eating my food, busting these crab legs down, and I catch eyes with this woman who's about two tables like in front of me. And as I'm catching my eyes, she looks at me as she's putting down, I'm assuming was her tip because you pay for the in a buffet, you pay at the front, and then whatever you leave on the table is for whoever was taking your table. I smile at her because that's my conditioning. And then she mouths at me, "Don't touch it," and rolls her eyes and walks away. And at first, I'm like, what is she talking about? Don't touch it. Then I look down and I'm like, she thinks I'm going to go and stand up and go take that $5. Like, you really looked at me in my eyes thinking that I'm going to steal from you. That's wild. I was mad hurt. Like, so I've had little one-off experiences like that. I've also had experiences in high school because I was taught by predominantly white um, people in high school at the famed school. I had experiences that were microaggressive around emotions because it can be a little difficult for a white person to tell you how to emote as a black child when we have a lot of different mannerisms and different upbringings and way around emoting. So there would be a lot of times where if the character is feeling sad or happy, the way I would do it, I would get a note around, oh, not too aggressive or not too loud or not too sharp. And it's like, this is my sauce. This is how my aunties show their anger. This is how my cousins show that they're happy. Like, why does it have to be so subtle and bland? Because, I had that experience, which also actually led to me uh when I graduated LaGuardia High School, when I graduated my school, I wanted to leave. I wanted to stop acting. I didn't even get my Regents diploma. I was so depleted. I didn't get cast in the shows. I felt very, very disconnected and unseen. And I even told my mother, like, I don't want to act no more. Like, I don't want to do this no more. I got into I chose to go to a HBCU because I was like, maybe I need to be around some black people because it just feels like I'm being smashed down. Like I couldn't be myself. And then my mother was like, okay, try to stick to the acting until like give it a year. Give it a year. And then I went and I gave it a year and then I flourished in my HBCU. The rest is history. I became a star, starring in the productions, working in North Carolina, going overseas, blah, blah. But at that time, my experience around my identity was so bad that I was willing to give up acting because when I left LaGuardia, I felt like I didn't have what it took. And I felt like I didn't have what it took because I wasn't nourished and nurtured in that way. So that was some of my upbringing that I was taught and that I was learned to believe was that there's an uneven playing field. You have some sauce, you have some agency, but make sure that you're leaning on your hard work. Make sure that you're clean, like leaning on your integrity, and hopefully things will work out. Like that was my general training around being black. So that coupled with every year Black History Month, with the culture, with kind of big group things, and also the fact that there are still structurally there's structural issues within our systems of government, of financial. There's just systems that were set up against black people because when they were set up, black people were not considered people. They were not considered humans. We were 3/5 of a human. So a lot of the structure of what is present in our country is not conducive for black people. It's not set up for us. So knowing that had me having a very different outlook around being black. Like I remember I was one of my first gigs abroad. Um I know it was my third gig abroad, but it was like my first time being completely around all white people in a cast situation because when I was in Singapore, my entire cast mates were black. And in Hong Kong, the next gig was in Hong Kong, the principal gigs were black. But then when I went on this ship, Princess Cruises, I was the only black person outside of a Brazilian man who was born and raised in Brazil, and people who are of the Afro diaspora but are not raised black and African American. There's just a different experience. I remember I had so many guards up because there were so many microaggressions happening all the time that I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable being a part of because I was like, oh, I guess this is how. Like, I didn't feel comfortable saying anything against because of like that was just the precedent. Like it was just the precedent, and so I did during that time. I had my ex cruising with me for a long time, like mad days cruising with me. And I would talk to him about some of it but I remember like it was a tug of war trying to marry the fact that a lot of these people are cool. Like I bonded with a couple of the singers, I bonded with a couple of the dancers, like some from abroad. One of the women from that ship, that contract, was the first person to introduce me to the law of attraction. Rhonda Byrne, Abraham Hicks. So I got some things. Another one, one of the singers, she, threw me this beautiful party and bought me and did they were lovely people, but that didn't take away from the stuff that was happening. Like, just I don't even want to get into it. Anyway, so I remember having that shock around what's appropriate, if I should say something. This is my first contract. A lot of these people have been here before. Like, is that appropriate? What? Just those things. So I want to say this because I want you to understand that I know what it means to be to have racist experiences, and I understand how uncomfortable it is. There would be times where I would leave rehearsal and leave areas in tears, especially on that ship, because of the awfulness of things and feeling like I couldn't say anything. And then there was other times where I was having a blast and a ball because we had, great privileges on the ship. So I want to paint the picture, but what I'm about to say may sound a little different. So later on, with my fast forward to my spiritual awakening, fast forward to 2021, where I get into meditation and Abraham Hicks, and I learn, I step out of the human, constructs and move on to a step out, because then I start thinking, I'm like, as it pertains to race, I think about Black people who live outside of America and how free they are, and not free from racism, because they will experience it wherever, they will also experience it, but free from the lens of it being a part of their identity. Like, for example, I'm a memoir girly, and a lot of these memoirs that I've read were ones that inspired this podcast. Like, one of my favorite memoirs is called Leslie MF and Jones. And she's a comedian, a brilliant, hilarious woman. And one of the things in her memoir that stood out to me was one of the mantras that her father would say to her, I think every day, which was, and I don't want to misquote it, but it was something around, it's not, life is not going to be fair because you're black. So figure it out. And then I just thought about how a mantra, how waking up every day expecting to be disenfranchised, expecting to not be bet on, how that could shape how you move in your life. And when reading those things, I was like, okay, like I want to figure out a way to embody and embrace being a black person without it being something that holds me back. And that's something that I want to pass on to you. And so I just want to share how I think I've come across, how I've done this. So when I went to Ghana in 2019, and I went to the year of the return, and it had a lot to do with the slave trade. So the year of the return showed us where a lot of our ancestors left the continent and was put on the ship to come to America. So it was very, very emotional and informative. And I remember having mixed feelings because a lot of the times when you think about history, and when people think about history, you think about my ancestors should not have gone through this. This should not have happened. This should not have happened. This was bad. It disregards what we currently have. And when I was in Ghana and I was thinking about what we went through and then who we became as a result of it, I had a sense of gratitude. And me and my friends just started like talking about this afterwards, and it was just like, wow, like my ancestors, some of my ancestors are from Africa. I didn't do the 23andMe. I didn't do the African ancestry, but that's coming. If y'all listen later and want to sponsor, not me talking about sponsors. Not me talking about sponsors. If y'all want to listen later and sponsor the girl, send me a thing so I can know. Holla at me. But some of my ancestors are from Ghana, but some of my ancestors are actually slaves, and they were bred to be the best of the best. Like I was thinking, like me and my homeboy were talking about it, like, yo, like, yes, I am an ancestor of a victim. I'm an ancestor of a person who was ripped away from what they know, but I'm also an ancestor of like a superhuman lab rat. Like I just think about how we were bred to be the best of the best. We were bred, if you think about like dogs, which is very insensitive, but I want to just shed some light and think about how the men were bred to be the strongest, the most resilient, the smartest, the most fertile. Like they specifically put the best of these people with the best of these people and then continue to breed the best of the best. So that's why there's a lot of extra sauce. We pick up on things more. We're creative. We're more athletic. That is a fact because we were bred that way. We were bred to be superhuman. So I was thinking like, and I don't want to say superhuman, but you know what I mean. We were bred to be the best. And that gave me pause because then I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, if we're saying that this whole horrible thing that happened, which is that we were snatched away and they built this country on our backs without giving it, and we're still working through these tangles of racism, if that was gone, I would be a different Black person. Like I would be, so I don't even know where I would be. You know, I don't even know, because we doing the hypotheticals. But where I'm at now, I'm grateful for this talent, this source. I'm grateful for what I've learned, for the recipes, for the resilience. Do you know, the same way genetics, like brains kind of get passed down and talents get passed down, I believe resilience gets passed down. I believe that the reason I'm able to keep moving forward in the way and what's going on in my life is because my ancestors was doing that. So there's a sense of gratitude that I have, and also a sense of like detachment from the trauma part, because they went through the trauma. They they experienced that. And that's not to say that my people, because we can experience racism every day, like, because that's the structure, that's the fabric. But the difference that I want to pass on to you is to be able to tap into your Blackness and tap into your Black identity in a way that supports you. So you'll never find me ruminating on regrets of my ancestors and of the past, and saying that this, and just that rhetoric of we're down bad, it's down bad, it shouldn't be like that. Because saying it shouldn't be like that is also saying we shouldn't be here. And I believe that I chose to have this iteration as a Black person because of the source. Like I I think that my soul was like, I want to do this. I want to have the, what is tea. And yes, I'm gonna come back with probably something that's a little, the negative parts, which is that some stuff is unfair, but it's giving, it was worth it. And I think that sometimes when you get caught up in the Black experience, because we don't want to forget what happens, we hold on to the trauma. Okay. So what I'm keeping is knowing the greatness that I come from, but what I'm leaving is the mantras that I was taught. Like, you got to work twice as hard to get half of what they got. You know, don't be trusting these white people. Don't be these things that this rhetoric is not it's not supportive. It's not supportive. And so I want you to be proud of being Black, to understand how it's powerful, but to also not have your Black experience get in the way of your dreams. Because regardless of how the tables are turned, how the cards are dealt, you were given enough to succeed and to win. Anything else is a distraction. Anything else is a distraction. As far as my gratitude, I'm grateful for the culture. Like I look at Black culture as an accessory to my identity. Kind of like how I look at me being a musical theater person, or me being from New York. It's like my soul is not a New Yorker, but it chose to come into this body and to be a New Yorker, so I'm going in. Like my soul doesn't have a social construct, but I am owning up because I know everything happens for a reason, and I'm gonna live that. So I'm grateful that I get to live for some soul food. I get to live for music. I have rhythm. I have beautiful brown skin. My hair, it grows upward. Like, the sun loves me. I got jiggle. I love being Black. I love it. I love it so much. I love how loud I am. I love how personable I am. I love how, okay, like I love that. It's a part of it, and I'm grateful for it. I'm also grateful for the contributions, because it also feels like, it feels gang. It feels like, wow, like I'm a part of people who build, who are smart, who are capable, and I see it every day. Okay, what am I hoping to raise you to believe? I think I kind of covered that, but the other thing that I want to say is you can honor your ancestors without reliving their trauma. There is plenty of Black stories that are coming from a place of triumph and that can make you feel empowered without making you feel like you're back in slavery with them. And that is not useful, because once you create rules to keep you in the boundary, you're just going to stay in there. And what I want you to experience is opening your capacity. I want your Blackness to be a superpower. I don't want it to be a handicap. Okay, so we're going to go into the next question. We're going to go into the question number 2 from 36 Ways to Fall in Love, or 36 Questions to Fall in Love. Question number 2. Would you like to be famous? And in what way? I would love to be famous. I'm thinking that by the time you're hearing this, that I am famous, even though at the time of this recording, I'm not. But if I give this to you in 10, I'm thinking this is about, 14 years later? Your girl's probably a household name by the time you're reading this. So yes, I do want to be famous, and I want to be famous for my talent. I want to be famous for spreading light. I want to be famous for combining the beliefs and ideologies of like the old times, ideologies around faith, ideologies around treating people with kindness, around pouring into yourself, around how to be a good person, how to operate as a spiritual person having a physical experience. And I want to combine that with relative relatable things. I think that a trap sometimes of being a spiritualist and people being into the esoteric and being like, oh, our soul is what matters and our chakras, is that we think that it's a either or. And true mastery is when you're able to use the spiritual in the physical way. That's what I want to show people. I want to show people that the spiritual is the beginning. The physical is the end. That's the creative process. You have the idea, then it gathers more vibration, then you get more momentum, and then after a while it turns into a physical thing. Like, that's the creative process. So when we get so spiritual that we reject the tactical and tangible, it's a trap. Like, that's when you get people that's saying that people who are spiritual and like godly shouldn't have money, or it doesn't matter. And you get people that's saying, oh, the real work is after you die and the real work is after you go to heaven. Cap, that's not true. The work is here. If you learn how to alchemize the powers, which is thoughts create things, and then aligning with those thoughts, and aligning with the thoughts that create the things means aligning as a whole being. So yes, in order for you to get that $1 million, you want to be happy and abundant. But what happiness and abundance also leaks over into is your integrity. It's your self-confidence. It's your self-concept. It's how you relate to others. It's what your contribution is. That's where the money's at. Not sitting on a pillow, closing your eyes, staring into the sky. And that is something that happens. Like, I meditate every day, but I want to be famous for combining the spiritual concepts with the tangible stuff right now. How we doing this right now? I want to be famous for being such a great mom and wife. I want people to be like, oh my God, you and your daughter and your son, you're just so, how do you talk to them? You guys have such a great relationship. What do you guys do? And I'd be like, this is what we do. This is what we do. As you can see, your mother is passionate. Passion inside has me, feel me. Cupid shot me. My heart beats racing. Tell me, try me, Feels so exciting. Thought of highly. It's yours entirely. I'll be okay. Um. All right. That was my first pass at that. I feel like I'm gonna have to say a lot more black stuff later another time. But that was my pass number one at being black. Period. See you next time. I love you so much. I love you so much.